Good afternoon. In this presentation, we're going to talk about restructuring our time for the work and really focus on the 2014-2015 calendar proposal to try to restructure that time. And with that, I want to share with you a little bit about professional learning and why we need to think differently about our current professional learning system and the time that we have structured for it. So with that, and in this presentation, my hope is that you will be able to understand our goal and why we think change is necessary, some of the requirements behind what we're doing, the research that backs it up, our current practices, as well as the considerations and options that we have on the table right now. The ultimate goal that we're looking at here is to build a calendar that supports effective professional learning for all Newington Public School educators. I think we're going to look at a little bit how our current calendar may not support that as well as we need it to. And with all the varied and many changes that are underway, we need to have a system that is going to support that. So why do we need to focus on professional learning? Well, the primary goals for professional learning are to change educator practice. That really is the bottom line. We engage in any type of learning because we want to change our behavior in the classroom. So that way we can improve upon our current practice, or we can shift it totally so that way it's different so that more students can learn and achieve at higher levels. And that is right there the essence of the second goal, to increase student learning, to ensure that we are able to meet the needs of all the learners in front of us at all times, and therefore by way increasing that student performance. Because we know that the number one factor in student achievement during the school day is the quality of the teacher. So if that be true, then we constantly need to engage in a continuous improvement cycle for ourselves as adults, all of us, leaders, educators included, to be able to help improve student achievement at all levels as well. So we have to think about what is helping support this at the kind of legislative level. And when we look at the Legislative Reform Act of 2012, we see that there are certain areas here that really address professional learning in particular, that it is to encompass a comprehensive and sustained and attentive approach. And now as I'm going through this, I want you to reflect on that. Does our current system provide a comprehensive, sustained, and intensive approach to professional learning? This act also shares that we need to focus on refining and improving various effective teaching methods. So what are those things that we need to focus on, and are we providing enough time to focus on them? And when we do provide that time, is it in the most effective way that we do it? We need to foster collective responsibility for improved student performance. So are we providing ourselves with the time necessary to engage in PLCs, to engage in data team meetings, to engage in all the necessary opportunities where we're fostering that collective responsibility for improved student performance? And according to the legislation as well, which is based off of best practice and current research, professional learning needs to be comprised of rigorous state student academic achievement standards. It is conducted among educators at the school and is facilitated by principals, coaches, mentors, distinguished educators, and all other appropriate staff. It occurs frequently and on an individual basis among groups of teachers in a job-embedded process of continuous improvement. It's a key word right there, in a job-embedded process of continuous improvement. We really are going to look deep into that in just a few minutes. And it's supposed to reflect best practices for teaching methods. So our professional learning design and model should reflect best practices for teaching methods. So with that in mind, we need to take a step back and look at, what is effective professional learning and what impact does it have? If you take a look at this continuum, you're going to see up here in the far left-hand corner, top left-hand corner, continuum of professional learning. As you go across up top, low level really is just developing that awareness in informational learning. As you keep going, you have folks who are gaining the skill to be able to apply it. And then at high levels, it's building that capacity and transfer of practice to impact student results. So is the learning that you're engaging in really changing your practice to impact student results? On the left-hand side, going up and down, low impact really is when you have, in high versus high impact is when you go across the continuum. So if professional learning is just kind of at that theoretical or informational um, type of distribution or learning that's occurring, this is where you're going to stay at the low impact zone, right? If you can get it to more of the demonstration during presentation, subsequent application and practice without some feedback, now notice that this is without feedback, then at least you're gaining a little bit. You're kind of at the moderate level of professional learning. But really look at what it takes to get into that high impact, high level professional learning. Job embedded coaching, mentoring during implementation of instructional practice. Now when we reflect on some of the practices that we've been working on here in the Newington Public Schools, especially this year, we can take learning targets, for example. Oftentimes we're stuck in this theoretical or informational type of practice, and we work really hard within the time frame we have to make it more demonstration during presentations and make it more alive and engaging during that time, but we're really kind of stuck here. And we don't have the opportunities built into our schedule to engage in this real job-embedded coaching and mentoring throughout. And had we have those opportunities, I think we would see that we would have a much greater success rate of implementation, as well as understanding as to why it can work or cannot work. So let's just take this job-embedded concept for a moment, and let's look at what it means, because I think sometimes we all have a different understanding of what job-embedded professional learning is. It's grounded in day-to-day teaching practice, so it's on the spot, in the moment, and you have high access to folks who can support you with it. It's designed to enhance educators' instructional practice. So it really is designed to change your behavior, your practice, so that way you can continuously engage in improvement. Its intent is of improving student learning. So at the end of the day, the ultimate goal of shifting any practice is to help improve student achievement. And it's a cycle, in a continuous cycle of improvement of learning, applying, evaluating, and transferring to ongoing practice, finding solutions for authentic and immediate problems. So it's really that opportunity, whether it be in the moment in the classroom where you're working elbow to elbow with someone and either they're modeling a lesson and you're kind of debriefing afterward about it, or you're trying a new strategy and they're helping you out and you're working in that model together with students, or whether you do all that work and then right after school or immediately at some point thereafter you debrief and then reapply, refocus, debrief, and come back. That's that whole cycle we're talking about. It embraces new learning, the implementation with support of new learning, accountability and feedback along the way, and then it really helps you to set goals for future learning. And at the end of the day, it's an extremely collaborative process. It's near impossible to do job-embedded learning alone. So with that, we have to talk about why does job-embedded practice matter, and what do we know about how adults learn? Like, how does this impact us differently than what we're currently doing? Well, let's think about how we learn. The best way for us to learn, to really, again, shift a practice, to change a behavior, is to identify what new learning needs to occur, and we use that through the data-driven process. We identify what do students need, and why aren't they achieving at the higher levels that we would hope. There must be something that we can do differently as an adult to shift that. And we look at that data collaboratively, we identify those needs, and from there we plan and we implement formal and embedded professional learning. And it's collaborative. We decide what are we going to learn about that is going to change these results, that will help students achieve at higher levels. Once we figure out our actions, what we're going to do differently, we learn about it, and we try it out. So we apply it, and we monitor, and collaboratively we discuss how is it going, what's working, what isn't working, what can I refine, what can I change and do differently. So that's that constant support and feedback that we engage in along the way. Then we reapply based on that feedback. So if I shift this and I try this out, are the results different or closer to where I want them to be than not? Or do I need to shift and reapply and monitor and get more feedback again? You engage in this constant process. You identify what it is that you need to learn. You implement it. After you create a plan, you get feedback. You try again, get more feedback, try again, keep refining, evaluate, and then the cycle starts all over again. The cycle can continue with the same concept if it's one that isn't going as planned, or you may choose a different concept based on what the data is telling you. All based on data, all based on how students are performing. And again, it's very collaborative. You should be working in teams, working with coaches, working with mentors, working with colleagues on this, and administration as well. So, what do we currently do? Well, we engage in professional development that requires educators to remove themselves from the classroom and attend in-service meetings, workshops, conferences, or lectures. And since this kind of training is more passive and supported by varying, usually limited degrees of follow-up, retention and implementation are usually very low. Again, if we go back to this matrix, we're going to see we're kind of somewhere in this informational demonstrational area. We really don't get to this piece as frequently or often as we need to. And again, according to adult learning theory, it's where we need to be in order to see any type of significant change that we're looking at. So what does the research say about this current practice of what we do? Well, if we go by what I just shared earlier of what we currently do, traditional in-service, without really any follow-up, you would see that you're only going to get about a 10% implementation rate. If you go into a model like instructional coaching, you see that implementation rate just skyrocket. This is over 10 years of research done on professional learning and the impact that instructional coaching has versus what we currently are doing here in the Newington Public Schools. A couple of years ago, 2011, the Long Climb report came out. Talked about school district human capital development systems, a report done by the Connecticut Center for School Change, and it was looking at what do we currently see for professional learning in the Connecticut schools. And you're going to see a lot of times it's what we're currently doing right now too. Folks are engaged in a lot of workshops, just like the ones we run, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, on varying topics, but much less are they engaged in those practices that we just reviewed earlier that show greater likelihood in change of practice that will improve student achievement. And as you go down, you can see, thinking about coaching here, look at the limited percentage. Peer networks, study groups, self-directed learning is a little higher, but again, that's independent, so you really have difficulty monitoring the change. So you can see, the areas where we want to see these numbers shift to are the lowest. And that's why this report came out. We needed to see in education, where are we? And a lot of the legislation that we talked about earlier was formulated based on some of these results. So just a reminder why this is important. If the number one factor, student achievement during the school day, is the quality of the teacher, then this stuff is extremely important. So how does this relate to the school calendar, and how much does time really matter? Well, here's some more information, some good research. The impact of time dedicated to high-quality, job-embedded professional learning significantly improves student achievement, as indicated in the following research by Reeves et al. So if you look here, and look at this chart carefully, these are the hours on the same learning topic. So if you have 14 or fewer hours on the same learning topic, you have limited to no impact. If you have 30 to 100 hours spread across 6 to 12 months, you have significant impact. We're going to look at some industry standards a little later. Industry standards would tell you that you only choose one learning topic. Now compare that to all the learning topics we're trying to cover in just 1 year this year. You only choose one learning topic, and you give it at least 30 hours. At least 30 hours, and that's how they do it in the in other industries. Here we're looking at, if we think about learning targets, I can count on my hand the number of hours that we are able to dedicate that in professional learning to our staff. And it's definitely much fewer than 14. And so you can see, just taking one concept at a time, Common Core, different instructional strategies that we're trying to share with folks. If we're not dedicating a significant amount of hours, we know through the research, and we also just know by observations, that the change in practice, the likelihood is significantly less. Combining this information, we must be charged to take an opportunity to evaluate and compare what we're currently doing to what others are doing that works. Our professional learning here in Newington, surrounding districts, internationally high-performing school systems, and industry standards, to build a calendar that really supports effective professional learning for all Newington Public School educators. So that's what I'd like to do here, and I'd like you to take a moment, click pause, and really formulate your thoughts based on this activity. Based on the legislation that I've shared with you, the research, and the relevant information that goes along with this, I ask that you both just pause this video to discuss what you think PD could or should look like here in the Newington Public Schools. So go ahead, formulate your thoughts right now, press pause, talk about it. When you're ready to re-engage, only take about 3 to 5 minutes, and then re-engage in this video. So what else do we know? What else do we know that's going to impact this? We know that systems alignment is so important. So we have to think about these systems, and we have to think about how they all work together. We have professional learning aligned to district and school goals, professional learning that is personalized, aligned to teacher evaluation. We need professional learning that's aligned to the Common Core, teacher evaluation, differentiated instruction, course content, pedagogy, all these things. And then we know that each school must have a professional learning plan that addresses the legislation. That is something that will be forthcoming within a year, new legislation. So we know all this. We know that we have to have a systems alignment of all these things. So how do we possibly attain that with the amount of professional learning time that we currently have? Here's a chart. It shares with you up top the industry standard over the past 10 years, the typical average, and this is just again on one topic, 31.9 hours. And now you can go into schools that surround us and what their professional learning schedule looks like, the amount of hours they dedicate. Now this I would not say is on just one topic, because we know that in education we sometimes don't have that ability. But you can see where Avon fits, Berlin, Correct, some of the magnet schools, Discovery Academy. You can see Farmington here. They put 30 on their calendar, but with 2 hours weekly job embedded, it goes up to 76 more. They actually hire subs every week, 2 hours for staff to get out in release time. Glastonbury does an early release program where they have 44 hours. Newington, we're at 22, lowest out of everyone on the list. And that was not by design. That's just how this happened. Rocky Hill has a nice schedule for PD. Next year, South Windsor Public Schools is releasing an early release day model, so they'll go up to 51 from 26. West Hartford's had an early release day model each week for over 30 years now. They're up at 78, and Wethersfield Public Schools is at 30. If you look at some other internationally high-performing school systems, the Chinese province of Shanghai, Singapore, Finland, I'll let you look. But I do want to disclaim here that some of these systems go almost full year round, or they have a lot of unique situations that allow them to get numbers this high. I don't think we will ever equate to this, nor may we want to. However, I think it's interesting to look at. These are systems that perform extremely high internationally, and you can still see, regardless of how or why, they do have, they dedicate a lot of time to professional learning. I think that's very important to note. So what are the options and the impact? Here's a chart. I want you to review it and see the different options, and also take the calendar handouts that I have given to you and look at how option A calendar, option B calendar, and option C calendar play out with instructional hours, early release PD hours, full day PD hours, and the total amount of hours instructionally that would be impacting, or that we would be gaining from 22 all the way up to this amount for each different option, should one of these options be elected. And then after, we'll have a healthy discussion of what you think about it. I hope this was informative. I look forward to speaking to you in a few minutes about this. Thank you so much.